expected points, clean sheet odds, and who is the best captain. This week, it might even be worth using your triple captain. This video has got all of the information you need to know ahead of Game Week 13. Alright then, we're going to start off by looking at the top players for expected points in each position. Usually on these Ultimate Guide videos, this is exactly what we do. So we've got a view here of just Game Week 13 in isolation. Donnarumma is the top goalkeeper. 4.4 predicted points for him against Leeds at home. You've got Kelleher in second, Burnley at home, 4.2 predicted points. Personally, I think in my mind, I'd actually rank Kelleher ahead of Donnarumma. Purely, Donnarumma might have better likelihood to keep a clean sheet, I guess, because the defence is a bit better, but I like a goalkeeper that has a chance of making saves as well, if possible, and I think that's what Kelleher has over Donnarumma. Obviously, normally in a game, I've got David Raya in my team. I think he is such an exceptional case where he keeps so many clean sheets that, it doesn't really matter that he doesn't get saves, but I think with Donnarumma, I don't think the Man City defence are on a level with Arsenal's where I'd go for that, if that makes sense. You got Martinez, Vicario, and Pope as your other top keepers. Now, we don't just look at a one game week view. I also like to look at the next 5. What we've got here is game week 13 to 17. I think, when you're making a transfer decision in FPL, you want to do so with more than just one game week in mind. You want to do so, I think, with the next 5. So what we've got here is a view of the next 5. Interestingly, Donnarumma is the top goalkeeper for the next 5 weeks. I think that's partly down to the fact that Man City have got some really decent fixtures. Alisson is second, David Raya is third, Pope 4th, and Petrovic is 5th. I wouldn't, if you're a Raya owner, seeing that there's 0.6 difference in expected points between him and Donnarumma, I don't think looking at these graphics is a case to, instantly make a goalkeeping transfer. But it is interesting to see that for once, over a period of games, Raya is not necessarily the top keeper. Moving on then to defenders. And it follows a similar trend in the sense that, there's no Arsenal assets here. It's all Man City, Brentford and Crystal Palace. So Matheus Nunes, interestingly, is the top defender for predicted points. I've got to say, my personal opinion from Man City, I'd fancy a go on O'Reilly if I needed a Man City defender this week. Or I'd just go for the standard Guardiola. But Nunes is top according to Fantasy Football Hub. We got Collins of Brentford, decent for DEFCON and bit of goal threat from set pieces, and obviously playing Burnley, good clean sheet odds. Munoz, he's always in there or thereabouts. We got Vandenberg and Guardiola as your top defenders for 13. I also wanted to look at not necessarily just all defenders, because I think it's a little bit of a skewed view showing just expensive players. So I've got a view of cheap ones as well. I set a filter at 5 million and below. Collins is still top, obviously he's 4.9 million. Then you've got Vandenberg, 4.9 expected points. Ballard, 4.6 expected points. I think just with his goal threat, DEFCON numbers, everything he offers, 4.7 predicted points against Bournemouth. And the fact, I think, Sunderland are at home, that'll be a tough game for Bournemouth. Burnley at home, another Brentford player. And then interestingly, we got Danso of Spurs. I think that might be due to the fact that when he has played, he's probably done exceptional for DEFCON, I would imagine, or something like that. You let me know in the comments what you think is behind the Danso shout. I think basically what it says is that the Brentford defence is definitely on the menu this week, particularly if you're on your free hit, but I think if you're looking for a one-week punt as well. So then we've got a view of the next 5 weeks, and interesting, Matheus Nunes is the top defender in the game over the next 5 weeks, and you know what? I don't hate it, but I think what you've got to do in order to back this is believe that he's going to play every week, and I just think with all the Champions League and stuff that Man City will have mixed in, I don't think you can say with any level of surety that that's going to happen. If he does, he's probably up there, but I'm not too sure. Munoz is second. I mean, he's obviously a great asset in the game, isn't he? Up to 5.9 million now is Munoz. Timber, 6.3 million, I think. I've still got to replace Gabriel because I used my free hit in Game Week 12. I think I'm just going to go for Timber, to be honest. If he gets through the Champions League unscathed this week, I think he's probably the best defender in the game. I know the fixtures are quite tough for Arsenal, but they are just so... The separation between Arsenal and other Premier League teams from a defensive point of view is just so big. But I think I'll just go for Timber anyway, to be honest. And then you've got Senesi. Bournemouth have been frustrating recently, particularly for me. I free hit him. Well, I had him in my free hit for Game Week 12. They've shipped 6 goals, I think, in their last couple of games. 2 to West Ham and then 4 to Aston Villa before the international break. So definitely not looking as solid as they were defensively. And then Virgil van Dijk. Less said about him as well, the better. I just wanted to quickly mention the joint project I'm working on with my good mate FPL Tom, the FPL Cartel, which is an exclusive Discord where you'll get access to the two of us for team advice, not just for FPL either. There's a lot of chat going on this week about UCL Fantasy. We're both playing that and making a little bit of content about it. And also, I think one of the most valuable things you'll get out of it is post our deadline streams, right? You'll have to, if you want like direct advice on your teams from a content creator, you'll probably have to go on one of the big, the big account streams and put in a super chat. Whereas the FPL Cartel is about a super chat, like in terms of a fee, for a whole month when you have access to us. And also, there'll be an exclusive weekly podcast as a result of joining too. We get you 30 days of a free trial when you do first sign up, so you can look at that using the link in the description below. Midfielders then, and well, you might be actually surprised to see Salah top because, well, Liverpool have been pretty pants recently, and so has he, but I think the West Ham away fixture, historic numbers he's put up, puts him there. But yeah, I mean, up to you whether you think he's actually the best. In second, we've got Saka, a player that I actually really like. Even though Arsenal have got Chelsea away as their fixture, I still think he could do well in that game. Obviously got DEFCON in the North London derby, looked a threat throughout. I just think Arsenal are probably the best team in the league, and he's probably their best attacker, right? He's going to play probably 90 minutes. Obviously a chance of DEFCON, probably their most... I know Eze scored a hat-trick against Tottenham, but I still feel like he's their best player from open play. And also, I think has a good chance of taking penalties too. Phil Foden, I do quite like for like the short term, but even for game week 13, like I can't right now because we don't know how many minutes he's played in the Champions League, at least at the time this video goes out. I can't say with any level of surety that he's going to start. There's so many fixtures for Man City in this run that yes, they might have good fixtures in the Prem, but I just don't think there's many outfield players other than Haaland you can say is nailed on to play every single one. And then we've got Bruno Fernandes, who I still think is maybe my favourite midfielder in the game. He's just a serial points dodger. 11 DEFCON he got against Everton. Man United was so poor in that game, to be fair. And then Ahmad. It's interesting to see Ahmad there, but one thing I would say, having watched the Everton game last night, is that he did look quite a threat. Like, he was just busy, getting on the ball a lot, trying to create something. He was one of Man United's busier players, I would say. Cheap midfielders, well, if Ahmad was on the list, it's no surprise to see him on here as well. I did a filter of 7 million and below for these ones. We got Szoboszlai, Declan Rice, Enzo Fernandez, a player that caused me immense pain in Game Week 12 because I free hit him out and he ended up scoring. I'm not 100% sure if I'll do anything against Arsenal at home though. And then we got Iliman Ndiaye. Newcastle at home for Everton. Obviously just beating Man United 1-0 with 10 men. And also I would suggest Newcastle not that great away from home. So it could be a good one for Everton, that game. For the next 5 weeks then, well, interestingly, Salah is no longer the top midfielder because in Game Week 17, he obviously goes away to AFCON. So for the next 4 weeks, his 4 weeks worth of points still rank him as the 5th best midfielder, which is interesting. I just don't think he can go anywhere near there though. Saka is number 1, which I do agree with. Bruno Fernandes is 2nd. Semenyo is 3rd. And then Declan Rice. Be interesting to see how well Semenyo plays now for Bournemouth, having returned from illness / a little injury, whether the injury was one of the factors behind him not really threatening. Because before the international break, I think he went 3 or 4 games, and the only XG he managed to accumulate was from a penalty that he actually missed. So yeah, we wonder if he can turn his form around, given, he'll probably recover from his illness in that time. Forwards then. Well, I don't think you'll be surprised to see Haaland as the number 1. 8.6 predicted points for him against Leeds at home. Mateta is 2nd best, followed by Igor Thiago, who I really like with Burnley at home. He's just an absolute, Brentford are really good at winning penalties, and obviously he's their taker. Raul Jimenez in 4th. I've not really considered him at all, but I think he could be fairly decent in the game actually at that price point. And then João Pedro in 5th. In terms of cheap forwards, well, I don't think be too surprised to see some of the names in here. Igor Thiago of Brentford is top. Raul Jimenez in 2nd. Xerxes, mainly because I think he's going to be playing up front for Man United. Should Cunha, should Cunha still be injured? Although I do think what he has is only a short-term thing and he should be fine for Game Week 13. Igor Jesus of Forest, and then Danny Welbeck are your other cheap forwards. And for the next 5 weeks, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised to see Haaland as the #1 forward, right? The fixtures are really good. And interestingly, there's a debate to be had, right? There's a debate to be had as to whether you triple captain him. And we'll move on to it as well. But you can see there, Game Week 17, he's got 9.6 predicted points. In Game Week 15, he's got 9.3. So he's got 3 home games in the next 5 weeks against lower level opposition, I would say. Leeds at home in 13, Sunderland at home in 15, and then in Game Week 17, West Ham at home. The best fixture in my mind out of those right now is probably West Ham at home, but providing he gets through the Champions League this week unscathed, you know he's fit for Game Week 13, whereas if you're waiting till sort of 15, 17 to play it, you run the risk of obviously him picking up an injury or uncertain things happening. You know, West Ham could turn their form around a little bit. Sunderland, to be honest, I don't think Haaland would massively haul against Sunderland, but we'll, I guess, see on that one. So there is a debate to be had on when you do it. I think I will be doing it this week, but we'll talk a little bit more about that when we look at Solio's expected points as well. Mateta is second, Raul Jimenez third, Thiago is fourth, and Voltemade is fifth. By the way, if you wanted to see all of this expected points data for yourself, there's projections right up until the end of the season. You can do so by signing up to Fantasy Football Hub, and there'll be a link to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub using the link in the description. A link to use the link, you know what I mean? There's a link in the description. What we've got here then, just to round the video off, we've got some clean sheet projections courtesy of Solio. And I think, you know, my main takeaway from this is, as still a Gabriel owner, because I free hit in Game Week 12, Arsenal are still the best defence in the league, aren't they? They might be playing Chelsea this week, but they've still got a 31% chance of keeping a clean sheet, which is, what, 4th best in the league? You just wouldn't put it past Arsenal to be able to keep Chelsea quiet and keep a clean sheet, would you? Game Week 14 and 15, 16, 17 all look really good. I still think Arsenal are the best defence in the league, and the best Gabriel replacement in my mind is probably Timber. The Man City clean sheet odds look really good, don't get me wrong, but I would just be worried about... I'd be worried about who's going to play for them, to be honest. I just think no one in that defence is completely safe from rotation. Liverpool, wouldn't go anywhere near them. Newcastle, I always say this, I think they can up their level at home and keep a clean sheet against anyone, but their away form this season has been really poor, and I'm not quite sure. Not sure I'd back a Newcastle defender just with away games in their locker, basically. Chelsea, Man United, Bournemouth, not necessarily that excited by them. Bournemouth have been conceding a lot of goals recently. Crystal Palace I do quite like. I do think there's a chance they keep a clean sheet against Man United this week. Then they got Game Week 14, which looks really strong. 15, which looks pretty good. All the game weeks in the future look pretty good for Crystal Palace to keep clean sheets, apart from 16, in my opinion. And then obviously Villa have got good odds in 13, and it drops off. So I guess if you're free hitting Man City, Villa, Brentford are your targets for 13, and that bit of chat I just gave you probably gives you a view of who I think should be in your team for the long run. Finally then, well, this is the case, isn't it, of whether you triple captain Haaland. We spoke about it when looking at the next 5 game weeks for forwards from Fantasy Football Hub. This is what Solio has to say. It's roughly the same, to be honest. 13 and 15, so the Leeds and Sunderland games on here are joint for predicted points. And then the West Ham game in 17 is higher. But it's only 1 predicted point higher. And also, again, you just go back to, it's uncertain. You look that far in advance and you just don't know if he's going to be fit and available. And would you want to run the risk? You know, I think I'd probably just use it this week if we know he's fit and ready to go. That would be my case anyway. Obviously, there'll be managers using your free hits or maybe other chips in 13. But I think if I wasn't using a chip, I'd really look at free hitting. Oh, sorry, free hitting. Well, I'd look at free hitting if that's the case, or triple captaining Erling Haaland. Let me know what your plan is with triple captain in the comments. Alright, well that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you're going to use your triple captain this week. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.